What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's good to see you again. And if you're new to the channel, if this is your first time hanging out with me, then welcome. I'm glad that you made it. Um, I wanted to talk to you today about belief and opinion versus understanding, or the idea of intelligence versus wisdom. Right? I believe that this is an extremely important conversation that we should be having right now because beliefs are so powerful, right? We've fought entire wars over our beliefs, and then afterwards couldn't believe that we went to war over our beliefs. And this is truly just a testament to the power of belief and to the fact that there is an extreme need for an honest exploration of belief at the personal level. And what I mean by this is really that you and I, as individuals, really have a duty to explore our beliefs and understand our beliefs for what they are, just beliefs. Because without a proper understanding on belief, then your beliefs actually have power over you. And many people live their entire life only in the realm of belief and opinion, and they never escape it. They never even realize that it's possible to elevate beyond that level of cognitive function to this realm that we know as understanding or wisdom, right? And the first thing that you need to know is that belief and opinion and understanding, these are both gained by two different modes of gathering information from your environment, two different modes of communication with your environment that do have some differences, and that's what we're going to explore. But we need to understand exactly why we would want to explore our beliefs, what our beliefs are, what they do, what is the role of your beliefs. And beliefs are a tricky thing to identify, right? Because you could ask a person, you could say, what do you believe in? Or you could say, what do you value in life? And that person, even if that person is yourself, could just say anything, and it could just be a straight up lie. But how do you really know what a person believes in or what a person values in life truly? Hmm? Well, a person's beliefs determine a person's values, and a person's values directly influence their thought process, right? Their decision making, their choices, their actions, and their reactions. Their entire worldview is shaped by their beliefs and by their values. Their entire behavioral process is a result of the way that they see the world. Okay? So, quite literally, a person's beliefs manifest physically as their way of life, their lifestyle. So, by understanding what you believe in and why you believe in it, you might discover for yourself that there are certain beliefs that you hold that are right now at a subconscious level, meaning that you're unaware of these beliefs that are actually holding you back and preventing you from experiencing certain things that you desire in life, right? Now, now, like I said, belief and opinion and understanding or wisdom, these two things are gained by obtaining information from your environment in two different ways. The first way that I will explain to you here is the realm of belief and opinion, because it's important that we're able to identify our own beliefs and our own opinions, right? We need to know what belief is, what opinion is, what it looks like. Okay? So I'll put it into perspective for you like this. You have, most likely, two eyes. And your eyes, they look into the world and they see objects. And that's all that your eyes ever do. They're always looking. Even when your eyelids are shut, your eyes are still looking. And your mind is always going to follow after these objects and attempt to label or define or describe or name everything that your eyes see, right? So you may look around and say, there's a tree, there's a bird, there's a whatever, okay? But your mind is always doing this, always naming what's around you. And these names are learned, right? You learn these names. Anything that you can say when you look out into the world, anything that you can say about what you see in the physical world or in the material world is in the realm of belief and opinion. No more, no less. And so many people have somehow equated the word belief with the word false or untrue or scientifically unverifiable. But it is possible to have a right opinion or to believe in something that is true. So you have to understand this, that belief actually is something that truly transcends the idea of right and wrong or good and bad when you look at it from this point of view. Okay? Now, let me give you an example to understand what it looks like when a person has adopted this stance on life, this way of gaining information. Um, and this way, I call it the external or material way of gaining information. And this is really a one-way street. And this is how most people actually gather information from the world. It's this one-way street where we're constantly shouting out and naming things that we see and saying, describing everything that we see. And it's a one-way street. It's just us shouting out, you know. Um, and so a person that has adopted this stance on life may look out into the world and say something like that's an oak tree. And I know that that is an oak tree because of the type of nut that it produces, and because of the shape of its leaves and the type of bark that it has. And I also know the sort of climate that it requires, in the region that it grows in. I also know the type of insects that burrow in its trunk and what sort of animals use it for shelter or resources. So I know for a fact that that is an oak tree. And if you notice, everything there that was said about the tree was all physical. All I did was list off a bunch of observable characteristics of the tree, and this really requires no type of understanding to simply be able to describe what my eyes are seeing with no effort. You see? And there is a form of intelligence at play here. I'm not saying that this takes nothing. This is, evidence of intelligence, the ability to speak and express an idea about what a person is seeing in the world. So there is this intelligence present, but there is no real understanding. So, in summary, anything that you could possibly say about the external world or the physical world is in the realm of belief and opinion, simply because it is about the material world. Now, let's talk about the second way that a person can gather information from their environment. And this is a two-way street, okay? There is a relationship that is being maintained between the person and the environment. The environment is speaking to the person rather than just the person doing all of the talking. And I'll give you a practical example of a way that we gather information like this. And I'll use a gentleman that was called Lao Tzu. If you've ever heard of Lao Tzu, he wrote a book called the Tao Te Ching. And Lao Tzu was basically like an ancient Oriental philosopher, very wise individual, right? The name Lao Tzu actually translates as old boy. And the legend has it that when Lao Tzu was born, he had a full-length white beard to showcase his divine wisdom. So it was said that Lao Tzu was an extremely wise individual. And he had developed this communication with the environment. One day, Lao Tzu went out into nature to meditate. He was meditating amongst the trees. And While he was meditating, a windstorm swept through the land, and it became increasingly more violent over time. But of course, Lao Tzu remained stoic out here in meditation, just observing the storm. And he noticed that there were two trees maybe 20 yards away that were growing near to each other. And there were two different types of trees. And the first type of tree grew stiff, right? And the second type of tree was a little more flexible. And the wind really started to pick up. And the tree that grew stiff was broken right in half, right? Tossed to the ground. And Lao Tzu saw this happen. And by the time the storm was over, however, the second tree, the one that was able to bend, was still standing. And so if Lao Tzu had taken the material, physical stance or way of gathering information from his environment, he would have simply pulled out his journal and documented and said, um, tree type species A grows in such a stiff, rigid manner that it cannot handle high velocity winds. However, species tree type B, growing in a more flexible, more pliable way, can remain standing through the duration of even the most violent of windstorms, right? And you see, this is all physical. But instead, Lao Tzu was able to take this situation, this that he just witnessed, and internalize it. And instead, Lao Tzu said, a stiff mind will break under stress, but a more flexible, more adaptive mind will indeed experience a more harmonious experience, right? Something along these lines. And it's Lao Tzu had the ability to internalize his experience and apply what he's seeing in the world to himself, rather than simply project his beliefs and project his opinions out into the world. Do you see the difference here in gathering information in this way? What happened to Lao Tzu out here in his observation through meditation of these trees with the windstorm, we call it an insight. Lao Tzu had an insight which brought to him a certain understanding of something beyond just the physical appearance of what happened. Okay? So sometimes we call it insight. Sometimes we call it a personal revelation, or like an aha moment, an epiphany, or a moment of clarity, right? We have all of these different names for it. And really, it's an entirely different way of learning something. It's not like you have to sit down and read a book, even though it's possible for this to happen, to gain an insight from reading a book. But you see what I mean? You don't have to study anything. It's more of like downloading information directly from the universe or something like that. And when this happens, what has just been delivered, what has just been delivered to you from this higher realm of intellect called understanding or wisdom, what has just been delivered to you is this sacred object of understanding. And sacred meaning that this is between you and the universe, or you and God. And it's to remain that way. It's something that you now understand, that you now embody and showcase as a gift from the gods. This is how people will view it once you truly embody it. It is put on showcase. People notice it. And when this happens, we gain these insights. It's an amazing feeling, right? Like we just made sense out of life in some way, shape, or form. And it's so important to us, right? It makes sense out of so much of our experience. And we may see people that are struggling, and we want to save them. And we just know that this particular insight that we have been granted can do the job. It can save whoever it is. And so we run up to a person and we say, hey man, I see what you're going through, and I want to tell you, man, I was there myself, and this is what you need to do. Here's steps A, B, and C, and I'm telling you that this works. At this moment, when you do this, no matter how gently or how aggressive you approach the situation, The moment that you begin to project this object of understanding into the external world, it transforms rapidly into an object of belief or opinion. Okay, it loses the majority of its potency, of its power, and that other person will turn around and say to you, well, yeah, but that's not really for me, that's yours. That's just your belief. That's just your opinion, you know, but it's not like that for me. And this can cause you over time to begin to question your own understanding of life and throw you back into the chaos that you've worked so hard to get out of. And I hope that you can see why this is so important to understand the difference here between belief and opinion and understanding, and sort of the path to each of these. And this is basically all I've got for you today. I will be expanding on this idea here in the near future. I'm working on an idea for the next video that is basically how to gain a proper understanding from the perspective of a gentleman that goes by the name of Seneca. And I'm also working on a video detailing the study of self from the perspective of philosophers such as Plato and Socrates. So I hope that you come back and see those. If you're not subscribed already, do me a favor, man. Hit that button. Just take a couple moments of your time. Anyway, man, until next time, I hope you continue to free your mind.